Fighting in order to live, and living to fight. That's the way of our world. Ionios. Tell me, what would possess you to side with them?
We're fighting because there are enemies to kill.
I refuse to believe you're him.
I knew it. I saw this coming.
You're not enemies now.
Fine for you, isn't it? All that time you've got.
You could try to move forwards again.
How can our lives be so snapping little to you?
They're not your friends anymore. They're his feud.
Sword march. The land pierced by a great sword. It's the only way you're gonna defeat the real enemy.
Whatever life is lost, I won't let you shoulder it all alone.
What good filling up these flickering clocks in our eyes? It'll never replace the friends we've lost.
The flame clock, it has to go!
Ouroboros abhor this world. They must be erased without a trace.
All right, so welcome to another video, everybody. Welcome back. Today I am joined by Frigid Lemons. Today we're going to be breaking down the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 trailer. Are you ready?
I'm so ready.
This is okay. Quick disclaimer, this is our second attempt. I screwed up the audio file on the original one, so we're taking a quick round 2 on this. But thanks again for joining me. It's always good. We're going to have your information in the description down below. So if you want to check out his channel, it'll all be there as well. He does a lot of Xenoblade, Splatoon, and other stuff as well. Okay, so first off, we get the switch click. And then, yeah, so like this opening scene here, I legitimately it just didn't give a Xenoblade vibe at all.
No, not at all. I was like, Fire Emblem maybe?
Right, because like we got a Fire Emblem Warriors game, so I was like, are they giving us a Warriors and a mainline Fire Emblem game at the same time?
Yeah.
Like I would have been surprised by that, but at the same time, not surprised at all. Just because because Fire Emblem's just one of those like weird smaller games that just randomly get a bunch of games.
And like this could have just been a completely different first-party game altogether, too.
Right, exactly, because they're technically Monolith a long time ago put out listings for a new IP, like job listings for a new IP, and this could have very well been that.
Oh, okay.
This was like 2017.
Okay, so one thing that I already wanted like to make note of I did not notice this in the first time that we did this recording, but to build on something that we did talk about a little bit. So the flute here, he's using the black flute. And then when they show the two characters using the flutes again, he's using the white flute.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll get to that eventually.
We'll get to that in just a minute. Okay, so yeah, it just didn't give a Xenoblade Chronicles 3, like any sort of Xenoblade Chronicles vibe. Plus, it's like a completely new character.
Yeah, entirely.
Just was not prepared for it. I had a feeling that we were gonna get this trailer or like the Xenoblade 3 trailer, but I didn't think this was it.
No, not at all. I thought like this was the last announcement. I thought we're not getting Xenoblade this time around.
No, not at all.
Fighting in order to live, and living to fight.
So
the
going
fighting
forward,
to live and
That's
the
the way
living
of
to
our world.
fight was the very interesting choice of words as well in the opening.
Ionios.
fighting to live and living to fight. Some, like in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, some, a lot of some of the, what's it called? Some of the NPCs think that a blade's entire purpose was to fight. So, like, living to fight.
That's very true. You're right. I mean, a lot of blades don't really have that purpose, but that's kind of like the general consensus is that blades are usually used for fighting.
Yes. Yes.
Interesting. I didn't even think of that.
I didn't think about that either. Like, we rewatched this like 17 times, and we still didn't come up with that.
Right. It's crazy.
And then, like, going a little farther, you start to notice that a lot of the weapons that these characters are wielding really resemble weapons from Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
You're right. And like here at the 21-second timestamp, like it looks like we have the Keeves is what it, according to the Twitter post, the Keeves is what it seems like are almost like the Homs and the Machina have come together almost from Xenoblade Chronicles 1, but some of their soldiers are carrying like a blue glowing weapon that kind of resembles that blue glow you would get in the Monado.
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting to see maybe if, because they already made a ton of replica Monados, and Shulk in Future Connected even remade his own Monado, so it would be interesting to see if maybe all these characters just have some standard issued military Monado when this thing was, a crazy mystical sword that only a select few people were able to wield, which I think that would be pretty crazy.
Right, like after the days of Shulk, like these things are just like mass produced.
Yeah, for
Type
sure.
of thing. It's like very, very likely that like these Monado like weapons could definitely be like mass produced. Like that's something that maybe it could have been a thing after, what took place in Xenoblade Chronicles 1.
I think that would make a lot of sense.
Right, exactly. And then it kind of goes a little bit further onto that side as for the Keeves is we have what resembles one of the metal-faced Mechon, fighting on that side of things. It's like...
Yeah.
And for some reason, like this, like I was like, oh, that looks just like the metal-faced Mechon. And then for some reason I talked myself out. I was like, maybe it's not Xenoblade 3.
Like
maybe
we didn't want to get our hopes up here.
I didn't want to get my hopes up too high. But I was like, okay, that like looks just like Xenoblade Chronicles 1. But
and
it's very interesting.
If we know Xenoblade 1, we know that there's somebody driving that Mechon, that metal-faced machine.
Right, yeah, that's very true. Like I wonder if this one truly is, because this one's huge compared to, they're huge compared to like the Homs and Xenoblade 1, but like this looks huge compared to even those.
It looks huge compared to Metal Face and Zord and all of them.
Right, exactly, because like they have the soldiers that are kind of like running on foot down below. Usually, they're about like maybe 10 feet tall compared to a Homs, but this thing's like 100 feet tall.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I'm just now noticing that, but it's crazy how big that thing is. So I wonder if it's almost like being used as like a tank,
And another thing that we talked about a lot in the first recording was basically the Keeves is basically, well, we came to the conclusion that it's probably the case that the Keeves are from the world of Xenoblade Chronicles 1, and the Angus, or what is it called?
The Agnes, I believe.
The Agnes. Angus
Hopefully
beef.
we say this right. This is just going off of what the Twitter post says from Nintendo. So hopefully we're even pronouncing some of this right.
And the Agnes are a part of the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 world, and everyone is descendants of each other, but the two worlds collided, and now they're at war with each other.
Right, exactly. Like, Yeah, and we'll as we dive like further through this trailer, like we'll see, I mean, clear references that these two worlds have come together.
Yes, yes. And it's really interesting to see what characters could possibly be, maybe even descendants of characters from the first two games.
Right, and as we start to get further on, there are characters that are coming out of both games, as we've pretty much discovered in the first few times we've looked at this.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
And then here at the 28-second timestamp, we have one of our first, what we are assuming to be our main character, one of the few. But she is going back to the Monado. She's holding a weapon that looks almost identical to one. It's got the red with the blue glow. It's even got the blue glowing circle in the middle. It seems like in this world, there's not just one Monado held by the Chosen One. It is a Monado held by whoever the heck holds it.
Yeah, what I notice is the Monado that he's holding is like, it's more shaped. It kind of resembles more of Shulk's true Monado from the end of Xenoblade 1 than it does of the Monado that you have at the beginning of the game. Like,
You're very right.
If the orientation of the red part is what I'm mainly looking at. It just resembles more of Shulk's true Monado, kind of.
Right, and kind of how it has like little grooves into the side of it too.
Yeah, precisely.
Where the Monado is just kind of like a straight kind of like shape. So yeah, I definitely, I'm like just now noticing that. I almost tried to put it more like a Pyra's sword type of thing, but now that you mention it, it does look like the true form of the Monado.
Yeah,
or at least in shape.
Yeah. And then we see the twin rings, which was pretty much Nia's signature weapon, because the only other twin rings were from common blades and some post-game blades, I think. So
Right.
pretty much Nia's signature weapon, or Dromark's signature weapon, whatever, whatever you want to call it.
Right, exactly. And the weird thing is that she is Gormati, just like Nia is.
Obviously Gormati, yeah.
And this one here does have a core crystal that looks just like Nia. It doesn't
even a flesh eater. A flesh eater's core crystal.
A flesh eater's core crystal with the pink and blue, exactly. It looks like the same shape and everything of Nia's. Which this one is definitely not Nia, but there is somebody that we'll get to later on in the trailer here. There is somebody in this trailer that is 100% Nia.
I'm gonna leave it at a 95% Nia. There's a chance that they'll throw a random curveball at us, but I'm gonna say it's at least a hard 95%.
Right. But like this one, she doesn't have the accent that Nia does, but she looks very similar to Nia.
She could definitely be. I mean, I don't know if they could, like, on a canonical sense, I don't know if they could be related, since Nia's like a blade and all, but they definitely have a lot of resemblances to each other.
Right, I
guess it's possible that Nia pulled a blade, because blades are supposed to resemble their driver.
Right. Or does like Nia just like have some sort of offspring or something like that, just comes out with a core crystal in her chest?
We never know. They never went over a flesh eaters.
They don't really
offspring.
Yeah, they don't really like go that deep into things. Which like I don't really know if that's like a route that Monolith or Nintendo is like planning on going with this, but I mean, like, why does this Gormati have an identical core crystal to Nia when, judging off of the accent, this is not Nia? It's very, very interesting for sure. Especially just the core crystal. And I actually never, my first like 4 or 5 times I watched this trailer, I did not notice the core crystal on this person.
I didn't either. That took a couple rewatches to notice.
Right, and at this point, like the trailer debuted a couple hours ago, but I've already seen the trailer like 20 times.
There's gonna be a lot of things that we don't even catch, and we
Right.
would not have caught some of these things if it wasn't for this rerun.
Right, exactly.
So then, okay, so going forward, we see a character, what looks like they're wielding a shield hammer, or a shield hammer type weapon. Definitely a blade, given the blue fire, blue stuff coming out of their face.
Right.
Definitely resembles more of a blade in that sense.
Yeah, he's got a very large weapon, and then it kind of like creates that ball of a shield like a blade's, sort of shield attack would do.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, even like Pyra and Mithra had like some sort of shield that created almost like a spherical shield around them.
Yeah, it was a staple for pretty much every blade that they can like block attacks with that.
Right, exactly. So I mean, this is definitely showing that like blades are definitely going to be a thing. We would assume, at least in this game.
And actually, we're gonna get more into that a little bit later when we actually see a little bit of the gameplay, and that's when we'll go over that part.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so then,
And-
okay. Yeah, go on.
Even at the 39-second timestamp, there's somebody holding almost like what looks like a blade weapon has like blue glowing tips of hair. I mean, that's got to be a blade.
Definitely a blade, for sure.
I mean, like their body's kind of like twisted, so it's almost like blocking their core crystal, or like where we would assume it would be. So
That's probably what they were going for.
They're probably like, we're not going to tell you blades are a thing in this one, but this is clearly a blade here.
We've already seen some blade. We've already seen 2 of them, actually.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so
And then
going
this
forward
guy
is
here.
actually a really interesting one. Yes, this is very interesting that I want to spend some time talking about.
This guy could warrant an hour-long discussion, honestly. But
Because now
this
I'm pretty
guy
sure that-
has
yeah.
the X across his face. The eye patch more resembles Zeke, but the X across his face and even the hairstyle and just like the build of this character alone, this looks just like Van Damme, but obviously,
Definitely Van
spoiler alert, he dies in 2. So, who is this guy?
So now, if I'm not mistaken, canonically speaking, Van Damme does have a son. So he did produce offspring somehow, but I don't remember if that son was canonically still alive or not. Like, I don't remember. Or he might not
Right.
even had a son, but I'm pretty sure that somewhere Van Damme mentions having a son in some scene or blob of text somewhere.
Right. I know he does. He did like a lot of adopting, like for his mercenary work and stuff like that. Like he brought in a lot of like younger kids under his wing. But like, if this is his like actual son, what's with the? I mean, just like, is this like a birthmark or something like
I was
that?
about to say like a birthmark.
Or did like this guy just like pop out with an X across his face too?
Xenoblade Chronicles X.
Yeah, is this like a nod to Xenoblade Chronicles X or something? It's just like, it's so weird. Like, how does somebody end up with an identical? Because that's such a unique and such a huge characteristic of like a scar.
It makes
Like,
me wonder if maybe
that just doesn't
maybe
happen.
It wasn't. Maybe it's possible that, like, I don't know if Phantom ever explained how he got that scar, but I guess it's possible that maybe there was like a clan, and they have to have that scar to resemble their like clan, maybe, and that's why
Oh.
it resembles each other.
I like that. That's true. Maybe it's some sort of like clan marking, maybe.
Because a perfect X on 2 people's face just seems really, really out there. Like, that doesn't
Right.
just happen coincidentally.
Right. And I mean, if we just listen to the voice acting for this guy over the next couple seconds, this
that's definitely Van Damme.
has to be the same voice actor as Van Damme as well.
Yeah, I'm like 100% sure on that.
100% that is Van Damme's voice actor at minimum. But like right after that, of course, actually, was he taking off a mask like Jin would?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking the same thing.
That's very interesting. Did not even
He even
notice
has
that.
the dark. He even has like kind of like the same kind of like hair that Jin does, like the long hair.
Right. Very, very interesting. And then this goes straight into about 10 seconds worth of characters just playing flutes,
Which is a very interesting.
it's a very interesting, I guess, I don't even know what to call this. Like, I mean, this has to have some sort of like huge part of the story for some reason. Like, is this part of like their culture or something like that? Like, I mean,
Maybe the gods that
as
they
we
worship?
go through here, I mean, this character here, we have the two main characters, in a couple of different scenes, they're all playing flutes.
And if you notice, if you look closely, bring back the flute thing at 45 seconds. The flutes are reversed. You'd think that the character on the left should have the black flute, and the character on the right should have the white flute.
Right, because
and
going off
yeah.
the information in the tweet, the Keeves are typically like kind of depicted in black clothing, whereas the Agnes are in white clothing. But as we can see right here at 45 seconds, the Gormati here dressed in white is playing the black flute, while the person in the red and black is playing the white flute.
And then at 46 seconds, or 46, 47 seconds, they pass the flute to each other. Or it looks like they're about to.
Yeah,
So
yeah, they definitely are.
Yeah, so clearly these two nations have to come together to stop some common enemy that they have.
Right, that's got to be like some sort of like thing of trust, maybe.
Maybe.
Because like
what we were
it sounds
talking
like
about-
both sides of like the Keeves and the Agnes are coming together. Like, well, not coming together, but they're fighting together. But it looks like we have this group of about 6 people. From what the tweet was saying, it's about 6 of us that are going to be the main characters. And it looks like the 6 of us have come in from both sides and kind of working together. So maybe this like exchange of the flutes is like a showing of like, all right, we're on each other's side, like a trust thing.
That would make a lot of sense, actually. And it makes me wonder, what reason do they feel the need to come together for? Like, since we've pretty much established that, these are the two worlds of Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and Xenoblade Chronicles 2, is their common enemy going to be from Xenoblade Chronicles X by chance?
That's true. Like, I wonder if, because I know in the direct it kind of mentions how it's gonna tie in 1 and 2 together, but it never really mentions anything about X. But like, I mean, it's on the table.
I say it's not completely out. Yeah.
It's not. Yeah, it's not off the table. I mean, they could definitely try to tie in X. But then
Makes me wonder, because X ended on a crazy cliffhanger, an
Right.
insane cliffhanger.
Right. I mean, it's funny. Like, they all kind of end on a little bit of a cliffhanger. Once you finish 1, it's like, oh yeah, feeling really great about myself. Like I just took down Zanza. A very proud moment. And then the end of 2, it's like, you just want to go like cry yourself to sleep type of ending.
Yeah, because Xenoblade Chronicles 1, like, you get immersed into this crazy, amazing, beautiful world, and then you want to see how it builds upon itself after that. And then in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, you see all the Titans coming together at the end, and it's just like, what's going on? What's going to happen with the characters going in the future? And that's never answered in those games. So I'm hoping that we're going to get a lot of insight and all of that in this game.
Right, exactly. And like, as we'll see in a little bit here, I mean, it looks a lot like the two worlds have come together. If we go further, actually right here, just 2 seconds later, we have a woman dressed in black, clearly on the Kiev side of things because she's dressed in black, but she has the wings of the Hyentia.
Not just the Hyentia, but a half-blooded Hyentia.
Half-blooded Hyentia, because if going back to 1, if you are fully blooded Hyentia, you were turned into a Telethia.
Very true, very true.
So it's definitely some sort of, I mean, she's definitely Hyentia, but definitely not fully blooded. Which is very interesting, just to, it's just a nod towards, or a reference towards 1 again.
And she even uses the same type of staff/lance weapon that you would see Melia using in 1.
Right, exactly. And it'll give even a better look at that in just a moment. And then we have Birdman is what we're going to call him.
We call him Bird Boy.
It looks like paper mache birds, but like he's like, they're
Bird
not your
Boy.
friends anymore.
So that probably alludes to maybe halfway. So everyone comes together, and then maybe halfway through the game, that truce breaks, and they have to go back to fighting each other. And he's trying to
Maybe there's
convince
some
her,
sort of
hey,
plot twist.
Yeah, like, hey, stop caring about these people. Like, what you doing?
Right, exactly. And then over the next few seconds, I mean, we just get a look. I mean, these are clearly all the playable characters. So we have this Kieves here that's had the red jacket, the Gormati, and a few others. One appears to be a Hyentia.
And there's one thing that I really want. There's some things I want to talk about this gameplay real quick. So first of all, you notice how the different characters are in different areas. So it's possible that each different chapter could go over a different character's story, maybe. And then, like, by the time that you get to chapter 5, 6, or whatever, that's when they all come together, maybe. But I don't know. And also, if you look forward a little bit more, right at the forest area, when they're all running towards the camera, you can see 4 party members out. And that breaks Xenoblade logic, because in Xenoblade 1 and 2, well, in Xenoblade 1, you can only have 3 party members at the front line at once, and then in Xenoblade 2, you could only have 3 drivers in the front, but they're accompanied by blades. So it's possible that some of the party members that we get will have the blade driver fighting style from 2, and then some of the other party members will have the solo fighting style that we saw in 1 and X.
Right, exactly. That's very interesting. Like, why wouldn't one side be able to bond with blades? Is it just like people from this world can bond with blades, others can't, type of thing? Or it's very interesting.
It is very interesting.
And
well, I mean, like, from Xenoblade 1, like, blades aren't exactly a part of their culture.
Right,
quote
exactly.
unquote.
Blades don't really exist.
Yeah.
They're just, they just have a sword that they swing around, basically, whereas in 2, a blade is like a living being on, like, basically that's like there to help you in battle. You have weapons and things like that associated with those blades.
Yes. And so it looks like, if I'm correct, then every character's fighting style is going to be very different. Very, very different.
Right, like we could get almost like a mix of both fighting styles at the same time.
Which would be really cool to me.
It really would. I think that would be really cool. And I think one of the biggest things that really stood out to me in this trailer is at 58 seconds. I mean, that's clearly the Mechanis sword that this character is running by.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's just showing further proof that, the collapse of the world in Xenoblade 1 and whatever happened with the world of Xenoblade 2, it's clearly showing that the giant titans in 1, are present here, or at least the ruins of them from hundreds of years ago are still here. Like, this is still that world.
Precisely. And they just kind of come together. Like, the Mechanis sword is so detailed. You could pinpoint exactly where, like, Sword Valley is
Right.
that, and then like some of the areas that you would go to on Sword Valley, like that little side portion right there, and Galahad Fortress too. Like I think that's actually really cool.
Exactly. I mean, it's funny because like this is all just noticeable in the trailer too. Like you can clearly see areas of the previous games.
Like the place that the character's on right now kind of looks like the Gormott and Colony 6, not Colony 6, Gower Plain type area.
Right.
And then in the next shot, it kind of looks more like more Ardain type of.
Right. It has that deserty kind of feel to it.
Yes, yes, yes. And, you know, it's possible that this Titan, or this area that they're on, is not more Ardain, because more Ardain was a dying Titan, and the high heat temperature possibly is what caused the area to be so desert-like. So
Right.
it's possible that this is like, maybe not Uriah, but this could be a different Titan that's now suffering the same issue that more Ardain was.
Right. Exactly. I mean, that's definitely possible. Whoops. And then let's see. And then more of Van Damme talking. The boat mechanic looks very interesting. It didn't really dive too far into that, but the boat mechanic makes me want to, like...
Makes me wonder if there's going to be, like, specific battle style just for being on a boat.
Right, or some sort of, like, I guess just traversal mechanic, basically. You know,
Yeah.
going from area to area.
Which we haven't seen that in the other two games besides X. In Xenoblade Chronicles X, you know, you drive the giant skells around, but we haven't gotten a vehicle-like item that we could actually control as the player
Right,
in any of the other games, I don't think. So that's going to be interesting, which makes me think that this world is going to be larger than the other two. I mean, clearly, like, if they're combining both of the worlds, like, just logically speaking, it's going to be at least twice as big, but it makes me wonder just the grand size of this world.
Exactly. I mean, it really looks like it's going to be just beyond massive.
And that's very exciting. Also,
Right.
taking one step further, we see the Nopon, and the one that's blue looks like he has Rex's hairdo.
Oh, right. Yep, right here. The hair looks like Rex. It's clearly the eyes aren't Rex if you really paid attention in like 2. I mean, those aren't Rex's eyes, but like I feel like the little hairstyle, the little fluff of hair is definitely a nod to Rex a little bit.
Either that or Rex got cursed into being a Nopon for the rest of his life, and that's just straight up Rex.
Right, exactly. And then actually,
And I don't even,
right
what?
before that, whenever I mentioned that Hyentia that was in black, that this kind of gives a better picture of her staff. Like that definitely looks like something Melia would have used in Xenoblade 1.
Oh, I agree entirely. And I kind of looked at it the first time, and I thought that looks like a blade weapon. You know, it's got the blue on it. But you're absolutely right, and it could be one of the, you know, the Monados that they made, but just a different type of Monado that's a staff instead. Because I believe that in Future Connected, Melia's staff has the same technology that the Monado did with the blue laser that came out. So they probably just mass produced those.
Oh yeah, I think you're right. I mean, maybe like in this world, it's Monados are just weapons. They're not the
Which
Monado.
is really crazy to think about, because in Xenoblade Chronicles 1, people, you know, like people died trying to wield the Monado, and now to see them as just like
Common
a standard
weapons.
issued military weapon, that's really crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And then another look at her. I mean, she has one weird thing is Hyentia typically have like the white wings. She has black wings.
I think that's really interesting. Like maybe I don't know, maybe she just went to go get her hair dyed, you know?
That could definitely be it.
I don't know. Like
I mean, I don't know. Maybe we're dissecting it too much, but I mean, at the same time, I mean, I don't remember seeing a single Hyentia in Xenoblade 1 that had black wings.
Yeah, so that's definitely interesting to see, and I'm really curious to see what that's gonna be like, because I guess it's possible that, maybe, I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, and now I actually want to take a look at the 118 scene when the two, what we assume to be those protagonists, are fighting that thing.
Right.
So it's definitely firing off a light attack, which resembles heavily Mithra's light attacks from Siren. So I'm wondering if this is either a Siren that went haywire, or if it's possible that Mithra is straight up wielding this Siren. This quote-unquote Siren. I don't know exactly what it is.
Right. And it does have kind of like the little pink textures to it as well. So, I mean, that's also kind of a nod to Pyra, but I think that's definitely a possibility.
I think so too. I definitely think so too. And that's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I like at first glance you wouldn't think about it, but I mean, it does kind of gives off like the colors and the light attack like you mentioned. I mean, it definitely is possible.
And even the sound effect that the attack gives off is like identical
Right,
to
like
the
the
Mithra
little
light attack. Yeah, it's like identical.
Yeah, it's
And
very
then, okay, I wanted to. Oh, go on.
Oh, it's just very cool like how it, that like, that's even a possibility.
And then going forward, we see what could be Melia,
Oh yeah, definitely.
but in the future.
Like this I would say 99% sure on my end here. I think that's Melia.
I have to agree. She's clearly, she has the shorter wings. She has the hair. She's
Right,
just
the hair
probably
curls
a
up in the
lot
front
older.
exactly like Melia.
The exact same.
And she's got the face mask like Melia wears in Xenoblade 1 as well.
And you could say that, the voices don't match up, but unlike Nia, Melia actually ages, so of course her voice is going to change a little bit.
Right, exactly.
Oh,
Like
speaking of Nia, just fast forward a little bit.
right. And yeah, speaking of Nia, here she is. I mean, there's no denying that that's Nia.
It's the core crystal, just the way that she looks, the voice. That has
right.
to be Nia.
Like, just listen to the voice. Which is weird. What she says must be erased without a trace, but that's a conversation for a different day. But, I mean, the hair on the sides, the ears, obviously she's Gormati, and the core crystal on her chest. I mean, there's no denying that that's Nia.
Now the question is if Dromark still exists too.
Right, exactly. I mean, if we've come to the conclusion that blades still exist in this world, where is Dromark?
It's possible that. Well, there's a couple possibilities because.
Right. I think that would have given
who's-
away too much. I think if they had
Oh, yeah, for
Dromark
sure.
pop in, so I mean, definitely didn't want to just like throw that out there. But yeah, there's definitely the possibility he's still around.
And let's not forget, anyone who's played Xenoblade Chronicles 2 knows that Dromark's role in the story, he doesn't get much in the story.
Right.
Especially not past the beginning. Like, yeah, of course, in the beginning, he gets a lot of lines, but he's mostly just known as Nia's partner.
Right. It pretty much just serves Nia and just does everything he does to protect her and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Typical blade healing blade type of thing, but.
So I wouldn't doubt if maybe he got a little bit extra screen time in this. But there's one more thing that I really want to bring up that I thought was a really interesting conversation that we had in the first time around was, at least I came to the conclusion that Rex is probably not going to be anywhere in this game. He's going to be referenced, like maybe Nia's going to be like, oh, if it wasn't for this one guy or this one person, I wouldn't be like the person I am today. And people that played the game are going to be like, oh, we know who that one person is.
Right, exactly. I think there's going to be a
Basically-
lot of references to Rex, and I think it's going to be the same for Shulk and Fiora. I don't think either of any of those characters are going to be a part of this game. I think those characters have kind of run their course. They had their moments in the original 2 games. But I think, especially because this seems to be taking place like hundreds, maybe 100 to 200 years, maybe more, like in the future. You know, they're clearly not blades or anything like that, so they're not immortal. So where Nia is a flesh eater, so she lives much, much longer. Melia is a Hyentia. They live much longer than, a Hams would. So it almost is fitting that these 2 somewhat main characters from the main game, or the first 2 games at least, make an appearance because, hundreds of years later, they can still have the potential of being around.
Yeah, for sure, and I think that's really interesting. And Rex, Shulk, and Fiora, like, they had their character development. Their character had a chance to develop and be a prominent character in the series. So I really doubt that they're going to be in the game. You could argue Fiora maybe, even though that her body got reverted back to a Hams at the end of the game, you could argue that maybe there's still a Mechon part of her that lives on, but I truly don't think that's going to be the case.
Right, I agree. Funny plot twist that just popped into my head.
Yeah.
Nia has turned into the bad guy, or the antagonist in this game, because Rex didn't say "I love you" back. Plot twist.
Well, same with Melia then.
This is exactly what happened. They got scrubbed off by the main character.
Oh no, those.
I highly doubt it, but at the same time, it's just a funny thought in my head.
That would be funny.
I love you, Rex. I love you too, Nia, and all of you guys.
Oh.
Oh, that's a funny thought that just kind of came to mind.
And, that would be so tragic. And
So
then
funny.
It makes me wonder if we could possibly see Zeke in the game, because he had a part of a blade
eater.
in him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Him and Pandoria. That's very true.
And there's a lot of things that I'm sure that we could dissect further. I really would
Right.
love if Tage joined us, because he's great at commentating. Like, I'm sure that he would really be able to add a lot to this too.
Right, exactly. We'll definitely go more in depth to this stuff like this in the future too. But
For sure, we're gonna make some podcasts out of this one. You know it.
for sure. But and then we go into the area where it reveals the title, Xenoblade Chronicles 3. But before that, we have what appears to be it's either Uriah or the same Titan that was on the cover of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which I think it's actually the Titan. Maybe they're the same thing. I'll have to look at Uriah. I haven't really picked up the game in a couple weeks. But it's definitely the Titan that's on the cover of 2, now that I'm have the case of 2 in my hand. And then right next to that, we obviously have the sword again from Mechonis.
Okay, Brandon, I just realized something, and I really don't want to interrupt, but this is important. So you see how the Titan is cut into 2 pieces, right? Probably by the Mechonis sword. Okay, I want you to go to the desert area at 59 seconds. I want to see if you see a resemblance of the right half of the Titan and the area of that, because you can see the sky clearly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or not 59 seconds. 1 minute. 1 minute exactly, pretty much.
Kind of in the desert area?
Yeah, they're in the desert area, and there's the trees. You can see it kind of looks like it kind of has the same orientation as the Titan at the end of the trailer.
You're right, it kind of does. And Uriah had that really interesting, the dark purples and oranges. These have orange leaves to the trees.
Yup. And now that the Titan is like, dead,
Maybe
it doesn't
yeah.
have it's turned into a desert, just like Mor Ardain was becoming because of its the end of its lifespan.
Right, exactly. I mean, that's definitely a possibility. All right. And that's just about it. Other than that, we have September 2022. Super hyped about that. Only a few months away.
That's going to be awesome.
So excited about it. We're going to do plenty of videos in the future, like just kind of looking even further into this.
Dissecting everything that we can.
Right, exactly. We'll definitely pull Tage from the Awkward Commentator, his channel. We'll definitely try to pull him into this in the future as well, just to discuss even further. But that'll be all for this quick. Well, I wouldn't say this is a quick breakdown, but all for this breakdown of the trailer for Xenoblade Chronicles 2. This was on release date or like on the day of the direct. But thank you again, Frigid, for joining in. And
this is great.
Of course, all your channel info will be down in the description. And with that, that'll be all for the video. If you liked it, make sure you subscribe. We got a lot of Xenoblade content coming up here on the channel. We've got a Let's Play series of Torna. And once that finishes up, we'll go straight into the main game of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So definitely stay tuned for all of that. Anyways, thank you all for watching.